So if we're looking at sensing versus intuiting, you can have the sensing function as being either extroverted or introverted, or you could have the intuiting function as being extroverted or introverted. And they give kind of some word association for what that might mean or look like, and I don't know if I agree with this. For extroverted sensing, they say experiencing, doing, noticing opportunities for action, adapting and varying, focusing on the present tense. Anecdotally, some of this might be true. Sometimes it shows up in behaviors. But if you think about it, experience happens to everyone. Everybody does things. Everybody at some point in time notices opportunities for action and can act. Okay, whereas introverted sensing is, the associations here are more linked to reviewing, linking, comparing and contrasting, noticing match and mismatch in the past. I think the past is a definite thing for SI dominance. I think your connection to your past has perhaps a lot to do with memory and how you build out your memory, whether that is long-term memory or whether you have greater access to short-term memory. I often say that I don't really have a memory, and that's not necessarily true. It's just like what types of things are you storing within your memory? Because I have a harder time, I think, recognizing and classifying my emotions. Like my emotions just come in blocks of complexity. I think because I have less volatile emotions, I don't necessarily store those memories and connections with emotions as strongly. I mean, there's a lot of elements to memory that you can get into. I'm not sure how I feel about that. Any good analyzer of trends, and NI analyzes trends quite a lot. So if you are using NI to analyze trends, you're inherently going to have to look at the past because you're seeing where information has kind of come from and how it's evolved over time. So if you're engaging in any kind of like reflection, whether that's self-reflection or whether that's reflection about the world and society or events, you are going to be engaging with the past. So to say that the past doesn't really exist for a person, or to say that the past exists more for a person, is kind of weird to say. So I don't really like the dichotomy of intuition focusing on the future versus introverted sensing focusing on the past, because I don't think that's quite it. That's kind of a weird attitude to have about it. And I really want to rip away this notion that NI DOMs are really good at predicting the future. I think it's more of the old adage of the broken clock is right twice a day. So the more predictions you throw out into the universe, the more you're hypothesizing, the more you're speculating, the more vague you are in your speculations, kind of like astrology is vague, the greater the probability is that something you say will be correct, or some generality is going to fit a certain situation. So I think it's wrong-headed to say that an INTJ is 10 steps ahead of everyone, because that's giving us too much credit. Now, we may have thought out certain contingencies for actions that we have planned to take, but we're only ahead of people in the sense of like, these are the next 10 steps that we are going to take. I don't know what next 10 steps you're going to take. I simply do not know that because I haven't received that information from you. So that's a weird one. I do agree with introverted intuition understanding complex patterns, but I think to a certain extent, introverted sensing can kind of do the same thing. The complex patterns that you're interested in and engaging with are different whenever you're intuition versus sensing. Introverted intuition, synthesizing and symbolizing. perhaps picking up on symbology or thinking about symbols and thinking about how human beings associate certain symbols or meanings with objects. But I feel like that's something anybody could do. And I don't know if it's inherent to introverted intuition. It might just be something that we do more of. And future orientation, I think we're always scoping the future into our plans. I think that's true. But I can avoid the future as much as anyone else can. Extroverted intuition, inferring, hypothesizing, seeing possibilities, wondering and brainstorming. Emergent. I think a lot of the things in extroverted intuition listed here, like inferring and hypothesizing, are also very introverted intuition. I can see possibilities too. Now, do I create possibilities all the time? No. I think, right, the more explosive jumping to possibilities and creating them, that idea of emergence is more extroverted intuition, whereas I feel like introverted intuition is much more taking in from the extroverted sensory and narrowing it down, reducing possibilities to probability and actuality and reality. Because once you start to focus something down, you can move forward. Whereas when you're jumping to different possibilities, sure, you can move forward, but it's much more lateral. And it's maybe more of the TI or TE paired with extroverted intuition that is going to actually get you to progress on some of these possibilities, with a little bit of the SI inferior. Anyway, yeah, the perceiving functions are interesting ones, for sure.